Hi, and welcome to Valley County Water District CCR Explained, where we deep dive onto our consumer confidence report and really figure out what it really means and how to truly understand it. I'll be your host of this series. My name is Joe Yersky, and today we're joined by Jose Martinez, our general manager. Welcome, Jose.
Thank you, Joey. Really excited to be a part of this, and certainly it's the first time for us to do a podcast.
Yeah, it's definitely something I've been kind of had in my mind to try out, really just kind of experiment with different things. At CCR is something we put out every single year. It's something that's just part of the thing that we do, but it's really kind of something that we never really explained of exactly how to understand it and really go through it. And I think that's the whole point of this series, is for me to be in the perspective of the customer and to really ask those questions that our customers might have with the CCR and have experts on those topics to really explain it.
I totally agree. When I started my career in water, and I've been in water almost 30 years now, when I was a student, learning about water, I started receiving the CCRs at home, and you would get this document, and it would just have a bunch of information. Something that was kind of difficult to decipher exactly what message was trying to be conveyed to the customers.
Can you maybe give us a good explanation on exactly what the CCR is and why we have to provide this for our customers?
Yeah, and you really have to get down to what the acronym CCR stands for. It's a Consumer Confidence Report, and it's a documentation that captures all the water quality samples that were taken throughout the year, provide them to both the state and federal regulators that we were adhering to the regulations and not exceeding any of the maximum contamination level. So that's kind of the requirements, but the purpose of the CCR is to provide that information to the customers, so they have access to it. We certainly see that is beneficial, because it's not only an opportunity to provide that water quality data, but also a snapshot of what the district has kind of accomplished and what we've been doing over the past year. So that certainly is an opportunity to communicate with our customers.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of what prompted this whole series that we're doing right here, is just to kind of really, instead of having it on paper, to really have a conversation about it, to really kind of ask those questions that you can't really put on paper, and really have a good explanation from all of us and staff here at Valley County Water District.
Again, my time here at the district has been very rewarding. We've made some great accomplishment, and very excited about the future projects that we have. I'm blessed with a great staff, a great board of directors, and all collectively working together. And to meet our main goals is to provide safe, reliable water, and doing those and understanding that we're going to provide that product in an affordable manner.
Well, thanks, Jose. I really appreciate all the information. Really excited for this whole series. Next, me and you will be talking about our rain in your rates. We'll be talking about drought conditions. So definitely stay tuned for that, and we will see you with the next segment. Hi, and welcome back to our CCR Explained, where we deep dive on what our consumer confidence report really is and how to truly understand it. We're welcoming back again Jose Martinez. Welcome back.
Thank you very much, Joey.
And we're going to be going through our drought, our rain and our rates, really talking about, what kind of weather we had this year. Obviously, it was a significant amount of rain we had, but how does that really translate to our rates and what that really means for the drought?
Yeah, we did receive a significant amount of rain this year, nearly double what we on average receive in the San Gabriel Valley. So that amount of rain is beneficial for everybody in the San Gabriel Valley.
So I feel like the big question that we have is, we have all this rain. Yay, the drought's over. We don't have to worry about this anymore. And of course, now that we have all this rain, our rates should be going down. Can you maybe explain that? Because I know we get a lot of those kind of questions from our customers.
Yeah, those are questions we certainly get a lot from anytime I'm walking by customer service, and we certainly have been talking with our customer service is how do we respond to those questions? And the answer is, and I know it's not the answer that people want, that there really is not a direct correlation. We don't base our cost of water. It's not based on supply and demand. If it was based on supply and demand, the last 20 years, we would have limited supply. So the demand, would potentially, go up as well as prices. Yet our prices have been, for the most part, stable with increases as we go with just the cost of service. When there is an abundance of water, that is just beneficial for the entire state. And we all share that water. Some say that the water is free. It's the treatment, it's the conveyance, it's the availability of that safe, reliable water. That's where the costs are really associated.
So kind of what you're saying is rain doesn't have a major impact on your water bill exactly.
It has an impact on a bigger scale, just the overall health of our basin, of our water supply. But most of our costs are just, fixed costs associated with, the delivery of water, 365 days a year. And as I made mention, most of our infrastructure is in the ground, and to deliver from the reservoirs to the wells to the pump stations to the treatment facilities, all those require ongoing maintenance. And we have to, there's costs associated with the ongoing maintenance. So it certainly makes our life a little bit easier knowing that we have a plentiful groundwater supply. It does make planning purposes easier, but it doesn't necessarily have a direct correlation of dropping prices, because a lot of our prices, as mentioned, are dealing with the infrastructure involved to deliver that water to our customer as needed.
Yeah, we're constantly upgrading our system and doing maintenance on it. And, with the cost of everything these days, everything is just going up. So some of these prices that we had a few years ago are almost double of what they are now.
Absolutely. Some of our construction costs have really kind of gone up throughout the years. And the same as a customer, that we have to pay utility bills as well, where our energy bills have been going up, our gas bills have been going up. So, and also the maintenance and the fuel of our vehicles. So all the costs that we experience at home, the district, we experience those costs as well, those elevated costs. So that unfortunately has a direct correlation to our overall cost of service to our customer. And as a public agency, we can only charge our customers what it costs us to deliver that water. So that really has a bigger impact.
Another question our customers have with all this abundance of rain is, are we still in a drought?
Yeah, that's another big one. And technically, if you look at with the amount of precipitation, and if you look at the drought maps throughout the state of California, a majority of California is not in drought conditions when you look at the numbers. Unfortunately, drought conditions change on an annual basis. We look at last year, and the map is signified. If you're in a dark red, you're in a severe extreme drought. This year, most of the map of California is white, but year by year, that situation can change. So technically, most of California is not in drought conditions because of the amount of precipitation that we receive throughout the state. Now, that does have some benefits in evaluating that on a state, and a regional, and a local level. A lot of agencies have reacted to that. Valley County Water District as well has reacted to that. The board of directors, we did make that adjustment to go back to stage 1, and that stage 1 allows for an additional day of watering outdoors. So the maximum now for our customers is as 3 days outdoor watering. But we'll continue to evaluate that situation. And as I said, drought conditions change, and they change year to year, and there's no predictability of what the precipitation levels are going to be next year. And the CCR, our bill inserts, our website, social media are those are the avenues in which we try to communicate with our customers. And certainly now a podcast, we're certainly trying our best to communicate to our customers in something that makes sense to them, and something that they can easily understand, and to convey that message to them.
So now we have all this rain. You said we capture some of that rainwater, and it percolates into the ground. Can you maybe explain that process of how we actually recharge our water supply?
Yeah, and for those that live local in the area, especially our customers, if you're driving along the 210 freeway or the 605, they're spreading basins. So sometimes you'll actually see these, it almost looks like kind of odd shaped swimming pools, but large swimming pools, and that is actually water throughout different periods of the year, and it actually comes down the San Gabriel River, and you can kind of divert that flow into these spreading basins. So when we're blessed with a lot of rainwater, we're able to manage that water and to control the flow of the river. And in doing so, you're able to capture that water and allow it to sit into these spreading bases and then percolate down. We certainly over the years have oversubscribed our groundwater basins. We're pumping out more than has been replenished. And just like a bank account, if you continue to pull out more money than you have in there, you're going to have issues. You're going to deplete your resources.
So we had a great year of rain, and we definitely appreciate it. And we're seeing positive improvement on our water levels, but it's a good reminder to say, hey, we're not out of this yet, and we still need to conserve and make sure we do the right things to make sure we save the water that we just collected.
Absolutely. In California, it's had several initiatives, and one of them is just, California. This is our reality of, especially in Southern California. We are a semi-arid environment. We have limited resources. We're under 20 inches of rain a year. So it's really kind of checks and balances of how we utilize water resources. We've made a lot of strides as far as indoor plumbing codes have changed as far as how much gallons per flush you can use for a toilet and how many gallons per minute come out of faucets and shower heads. But there is some additional work to do outdoors. And probably the biggest one is to really conform our outside landscape to more appropriately fit the type of environment that we have, something that can survive with less than 20 inches of rain. Kind of a change of philosophies or change of outlooks of how we landscape outside is really kind of the next frontier as for the community to potentially conserve water outdoors.
So we talked about rain rates and got a good understanding on why it doesn't really correlate exactly with, getting more rain equals less on your water bill. But can you maybe explain some other options that we can reduce our water bill and kind of, get it more affordable?
That certainly is one of our goals of our district, safe, reliable, and affordable water to our customers. And our customers really have the ability to control, there's two components of a bill. One is the fixed service charges and one is the actual charge for consumption. And some people question the fixed charge. And the fixed charge is the ability to deliver water to all our customers 24 hours a day, 365 a day. So those are some of the costs associated with the fixed charge. But the consumption charge is really in the hands of the customers of how much water they're actually consuming. Is what they're going to be billed for. So we have an array of different opportunities for customers to participate in rebate programs in which they can receive rebates to install a new toilet, a new washing machine, modifications to their outdoor landscape. So some of these small changes, both indoors and outdoors, can really make major changes as far as overall consumption for our customers. And we do have programs here available on our website. In addition to just controlling how much water you actually consume, we also do have an affordable rate program that is available to all our customers. So any customer that qualifies for either Edison or the gas company and their CARE programs can certainly apply for our affordable rate program and can start receiving the benefits and some of the reduction off their fixed charges of their bill through that program as well.
Well, thanks, Jose. I really appreciate you going through this section. It's a lot to go through. I really do feel like you explained it really well on the rain and how it affects our drought condition and our water supply. And it's a really big thing to understand. And I feel like you really explained it well.
I appreciate that. This is the easy part of the CCR. So wish you luck on the more technical aspects of the document.
Yeah. Next, we'll be talking with Tara Robinson and going through our upcoming projects. So stay tuned for the next segment, and we'll catch Jose later on.
Thank you.
Hi, and welcome back to our CCR Explained, where we go page by page to go over our consumer confidence report. And last episode, we talked about our drought conditions. And this time, we're going to be talking about our upcoming projects. And I have a new guest with us, and it is Tara Robinson. Welcome, Tara.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Really appreciate you coming in and, explaining everything that has to do with our upcoming projects with the district. Why don't you give us a little bit of background of where you came from and maybe kind of expertise you have with projects?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I've been with Valley County Water District for 18 years. I started basically as a secretary and I worked my way up. I was in water quality for about 13 years. Then I became the district's management analyst, and I'm now the water resources manager.
Now, with all these projects that we have going on, I'm sure there's a lot of infrastructure to be maintained. So why don't you tell us actually what kind of infrastructure we have at the district and what it takes to run that?
Absolutely. So the district was formed in 1926. So we're getting pretty close to our 100-year birthday, which means that the infrastructure that we have in our system is also approaching its 100-year birthday. We have 6 reservoirs, and combined that can store a total of 10 million gallons of water. Those reservoirs are getting pretty old, so this year we did a reservoir rehab project, which we recoated the interior and the exterior of the reservoirs so that we can take care of that asset for years to come, for future generations. We also have about 120 miles of pipeline in our system. That's what we call water distribution pipeline, but basically those are the pipes that take the water from our treatment plants and our wells into the homes of our customers. So to be responsible as a water district, we have to make sure that we're keeping up on maintaining that infrastructure. We're trying to do about a mile of pipeline a year just to keep that pipeline in good working order. We also have water treatment plants. We have 3 water treatment plants that feed our system, and we have 1 state-of-the-art water treatment plant that actually cleans up the groundwater. Those treatment plants are quite old. The wells are also quite old. So we're constantly doing preventative and predictive maintenance on our system, and it can be quite costly. But as long as we keep up on it, we are making sure that the system is always running. Make sure that every time you go to your tap and turn on the water, you get clean, reliable drinking water.
Another thing I kind of hear a lot is CIP. I know it stands for Capital Improvement Projects, but what exactly does that mean, and what does that entail as a water agency?
Well, just like a household budget, we have a budget, and that's the cost to run our office, our treatment plants, all the daily expenses of keeping the water system running and making sure that everything's in good working order. But big projects, really big projects, have to be budgeted kind of separately. They're still part of our budget, but it's called the Capital Improvements Projects budget. Mm-hmm. And that's where we put money for large infrastructure improvements. We are working on building 2 new reservoirs. Which with a combined total of about 5 million gallons. So I've already said that we have 10 million gallons of storage with our existing reservoirs. This would add another 5 million gallons of storage for us, which helps us in the summer when if there was a fire on the hottest day of the year, that kind of thing. We want to make sure we have plenty of water available. So budgeting for the 2 reservoirs, that's in the capital improvements projects. Pipeline replacement projects, that's in CIP. Our AMI meters, our smart meters, that also falls in the CIP budget. And that's a way that we look at what the district needs to do to provide for the future.
A lot of costs could have to do with all this kind of stuff, right?
It is a lot of costs. What we want to do is keep the water rates as low as possible, but we need to make sure that the water system is ready for tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And it's a juggling act sometimes. One of the things that our general manager and our board of directors has tasked us with doing is to pursue grant funding. Oh. So we have brought in about $7 million in grants, outside funding, to help pay for these large projects. That's helping quite a bit.
So going on grants, what you just mentioned right now, is that a pretty a long process to do? I mean, you throw out a really big number right there. Yeah. How does someone get that amount of money to secure for these types of projects?
When we first started looking at grants, we don't have a grant department, or we don't have the ability to hire a company to come and do this for us. We're not a real big water district, but we're not a real small water district, or we're kind of in between. So we have to use our own internal resources, and luckily we have some really talented people in-house. The first couple of times we sat down to do a grant application, it was like reading hieroglyphics. It was just really a complicated process, something that's unlike anything else that we've ever done before. Mm-hmm. But we have been pretty successful. I mean, for a district our size, we've brought in quite a few grants.
More specifically with the grants, I know we've secured some funding for our AMI project that you were talking about. Can you tell us a little more about that and about that project and kind of what it entails?
Oh, I'm happy to, yes. So we've received actually 2 grants for AMI, and AMI is smart meters. So the smart meters, we have 11,100 residential customers, or we call it service connections or meters for residential. We received a grant for that project. We are about 90% done with that project. So they've changed out almost all of the residential meters. We also have received a grant for the commercial meters, and it's for businesses, school districts, city, parks, anything like that. And another part of this project, well, it has a water conservation benefit, which is really the exciting part. So if you have, let's say, a toilet leaking, which is a pretty common leak.
Very common. One of the most common leaks you could find
right,
in
absolutely.
Any water district.
Right. And any house, honestly.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. At a certain stage, you start having flapper problems with your toilet. And a lot of water goes down the drain. And people don't realize, just hearing that toilet running, it's just kind of an annoyance, but they don't really realize until they get their water bill. And the water bill can be really high. So 2 months of having a leak that you don't know you have, you might be hit with a water bill that up to double what you normally pay. It's tough. But with a smart meter, the smart meter will alert the water district that you have a potential leak, and we can take a look at the data and see, oh, there's a constant flow 24 hours a day from this meter. Something's wrong, there's probably a leak. We can hang a tag on the customer's door and let you know, hey, we think you might have a leak in your house because we have constant flow of water. And then the customer can detect it long before that water bill comes and hopefully save them quite a lot of money and save water, because it's really, we're a water district. It's about being environmentally conscious. It's about making sure that we're using water as wisely as we can.
Well, thanks, Tara. Appreciate you really explaining the upcoming projects the district has, and really just, really explaining it to on a real level of kind of what we're doing. And again, that's the whole point of this project we're doing, is really explaining our CCR and letting our customers really understand what all this means. Because it's one thing to have it in hand and paper, and it's another thing to just really explain it and have a good conversation about it.
And thank you, Joe, for doing this. This is such a great project. We put all this work into it, and we're very proud of all the work we do as a water district. And we want to make sure that the customers are able to understand what it is that we're putting out when they receive the CCR.
Yes. Again, really, really appreciate your time. And we'll be going into our next section, which is going to be going over our water quality regulations. Lots of fun stuff in that section right there. So definitely stay tuned, and we'll catch you on the next one, Tara.
Thanks, Joe.
Hi, and welcome back to our Consumer Confidence Report Explained, where we go deep dive into what our Consumer Confidence Report really is and how to truly understand it. Last time we spoke, we talked about our capital improvement projects and certain grants that we've obtained. And this time we're getting really deep in the weeds. Welcome back, Tara, by the way. How you doing?
Oh, thanks. Doing well. Thanks, Joe.
Definitely nice to have you back. And it's nice to have a true expert on this next topic, because this next topic can be a little overwhelming in the CCR, a little bit confusing. And we're talking about water quality stuff.
Yes.
It seems to raise a kind of sometimes red flags. People get really concerned when they hear about water quality. Can you explain, the type of regulations we have to go through and kind of what this part of the CCR really explains?
Sure, I'm happy to. The regulations it's kind of a complicated topic, honestly. We're under several different regulations. The California State Department of Drinking Water is under water boards, which is under the State Water Resource Control Board, and that's who regulates drinking water in California. The Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, regulates drinking water federally. We're under both, and sometimes California has much more stringent requirements than the EPA. So whichever is the more stringent requirement, we're obligated to make sure that we are conforming with.
So it sounds like the state is taking this very seriously, and so should we. And I believe we do, right? Because
absolutely.
We follow a lot of these rules, and why don't you explain exactly some of these rules that we have to follow?
Sure, absolutely. So in our water distribution system, we take weekly samples for bacteria to make sure that there's no bacteria in our system. We have sample stations located throughout the city in the locations that are most likely to have situation where there might be water that's maybe not used as often, maybe part of the system where it's the end of the system, things like that. And we pull a sample, a coliform. It's called a coliform sample, but it's a bacteria sample every week. When we take samples, we take them into a third-party laboratory, and that laboratory reports directly to the state. So that's really reassuring as a consumer of potable drinking water.
We're doing everything we can on our side and making sure that someone else is triple checking us. So this part of the CCR has a lot of words in it, and it almost seems a little confusing, almost a little too confusing, almost like we didn't write a lot of this. Can you maybe explain that and why this is seems so complicated in this section?
Sure, I'm happy to. The state gives us a template that we follow. The first part of the CCR is us talking about what's going on with our water district specifically. But the state wants to make sure that there's full disclosure and that everything is right out in the open. So they give us kind of a template that we follow for the Consumer Confidence Report that all water districts are required to use. And it discloses information about if you're an immunocompromised person, what lead in the tap water might mean, different topics in the CCR, and it does take up about 2 pages. But I know that the state is trying to make sure that everything is as clear and open as possible. But sometimes I think it might make it a little more confusing or maybe even a little intimidating, because when I read my CCR, I take a look at it and go, oh, does that mean that our water has that? Does that mean that this is a problem in our city? But it doesn't necessarily mean that. It just means that we have to disclose all of these things on behalf of the state or because the state regulates it.
So when it comes to Valley County Water District, why is it so important to us to follow these guidelines?
Well, it's regulated. I mean, we want to make sure that we're following all state and federal regulations, which we do for our sampling, for our CCR, for everything, really. So the reason that the CCR is important, why is there a CCR? We want to make sure that our customers know that our water is safe to drink. And sometimes, I guess these days, people tell you something, but you really need to check it out for yourself. Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure that everybody has every assurance that we are disclosing all of our sampling results to you. That when you read our CCR and you look up a certain contaminant that maybe you've heard on the news or something, and you want to see, do we have it in our water? You see exactly what the sample results are. You see what the range of detection is. Was there a violation of the regulations? And where does this particular thing come from? This is our family's health. And it's really important that people know that our water is safe to drink.
It is really good to know, and it's comforting knowing that I have this information at my hands, available online anywhere you could possibly want this information. It's available. So can you maybe explain is there a process like if there is a bad sample, or how are you going to notify the customers, and how would they be aware of something like this?
Oh, that's a really good question. If, let's say, we found that maybe we have a positive bacteria sample in our system, you take a sample and then you take a repeat sample to confirm that result was actually accurate. Then we have to go to any wells that might be on when that sample was taken, and we have to sample each of those wells. And then it's not regulated, but Valley County, as a precaution, goes and samples all of our reservoirs too. It's all set up with the state. So if you have a sample and it's positive for this, or if there's a contaminant that's harmful to people, it tells you exactly how you have to notify. Sometimes you notify just annually in the CCR, or sometimes you have to notify by notifying all customers within 24 hours if it's really a serious issue.
Yeah, and it seems like if something major were to happen, any of our customers would know about it pretty darn soon.
Oh, yeah.
And, we're going to definitely let that information out as soon as possible. So,
absolutely.
Well, again, this section has a lot of really good information. But again, this is something that comes out once a year. What if I have a question about water quality in the middle of the year? What could I do about that?
I'm really glad you asked that. So Dana Diaz, that works here at the district, she is in charge of water quality, and she takes calls from customers all the time. We are our customers' water provider. We're here to answer questions. If our customers have any concerns about their water quality, if they smell chlorine and they want to know why do they smell chlorine and is that okay? Is it safe to drink? Anything like that, feel free to call. Call Dana, call me, Tara Robinson. Call the office and let them know. I have concerns, I have questions. We're happy to come out and visit your house, talk to you a little bit about it, reassure you, provide our CCR, explain it to you if that's what you'd like. Whatever it is, but we're here to serve our customers.
Thanks, Tara. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate your time. You really did explain this kind of really confusing section and really just made it kind of, I could actually understand what this means now. And again, that's the whole point of the CCR Explained, is really explaining all these kind of confusing sections and really getting, like I said, getting deep into what we should be understanding from this. Speaking of what Tara was talking about, we have Dana Diaz coming in on our next segment talking about our water quality report. And this is like the actual part of, deep dive into the numbers. So definitely stay tuned for that, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, Tara. Hi, and welcome back to our CCR Explained, where we go over our consumer confidence report and really deep dive on exactly how to understand it and to really get a good explanation from experts in the field. Today we have Dana Diaz. Welcome, Dana.
Hi, how are you?
Doing good, good. Glad to have you on here. Glad to have a good expert on this field. Last we talked about our the drinking water standards with Tara, and she'd get a really good explanation about that. And now we're going to deep dive about potential contaminants. Why don't you give us a little brief explanation about, kind of what you do for the district?
Well, I am officially the district's management analyst. What I do is I handle the water quality division. So I do manage that, ensure that all the samples are conducted when necessary, and then make sure that they get reported back to the state. I also heavily work in the grant side of things. So currently I grant write and manage I'm sure Tara mentioned that we've been very successful in our grant writing, and
Lots of good stuff with Tara and our
Yes,
grants. And
yes.
thank you for participating with that as well.
it's fun, and it's nice to say that we can find this funding that's out there for our community.
So now let's get into this with the potential contaminants. This is like we said, it's a pretty scary topic because there's a lot of strange and scary kind of contaminants that could be in this water. And why don't you maybe explain some of those contaminants that are potential, and maybe do we have any of those contaminants in our water?
There are a lot of potential contaminants in drinking water. However, I will say Valley County is very fortunate to not have those scary contaminants, at least not in abundance. So there are present, but going through the CCR, you'll see, if you're looking at the numbers, that we have very, very low levels of these contaminants. And to answer your question as far as what potential contaminants we can have, what we see the most here, I would say, would be inorganic contaminants. And so those are things that are caused by leaching into the groundwater. Since we are 100% reliable on groundwater, that would be probably our primarily concern, is things of those natures. But like I mentioned, we're very fortunate with our groundwater and our treatment capabilities.
So you mentioned the organic contaminants that could be in our water. Is that something that I should be concerned about as a customer drinking this water?
So not at all. When we speak of water contaminants, especially here in California, that's not getting to your tap water. We, as a district, and just as a state, as a local agency, we have very stringent rules and ways to prohibit that from happening. So no, it's not something you worry about. If there's anything that ever occurs in the water, we know about it way before you do. Look at it as various checks and balances. You know, it has to go through kind of a conveyor belt of treatment and checks before it gets into your tap. At every level, we're ensuring that it's safe and ready for you to drink. So no, it's definitely not something you worry about, because really that's our job, is to worry about it for you.
So another thing I noticed on this section of the CCR is the immunocompromised section. Can you maybe explain exactly what that means and who should be really concerned about that?
Sure. So although we mentioned that our water is safe, which it 100% is, based on your doctor's personal recommendations or perhaps treatments that you're going through medically, medications, things of that sort, it may have an effect with some of the things that are coming through in the groundwater. Some of those things would be minerals that are just naturally occurring. And not to say that they're harmful, but based on a medical issues, they may compromise the treatment that they're receiving or the medications that they're being given.
So the next thing I noticed is it's talking about lead and in your water. Again, we're talking about this being kind of a little scary or a little eye-raising. If I was not in the water industry and I see lead in your tap water, that kind of raises a red flag for me. Can you maybe explain that?
Sure. And I think lead became a hot topic with Flint, Michigan. Unfortunately, I think most of us are aware of what occurred in that city, in that town. But again, California, we have some pretty stringent laws. So, as far as drinking water is concerned, first you have the EPA regulating it, but then California, we really exceed most of the laws set by the EPA or standards set by the EPA. So is that something we should be concerned about? Definitely. Should it be concerned about in your drinking water? Not here at Valley County. All of our water system, distribution system, pipes do not contain lead. We report that every year on our annual report that we do not have lead in our system.
So since we're on the topic of contaminants, can you tell us a little bit more about PFAS? I feel like it's kind of a hot topic, kind of button. We've been hearing a lot in the news. It's somewhat confusing. Don't know exactly what it is. If it is really dangerous for us, how dangerous is it? Can you maybe explain that a little bit more to me?
Sure. So PFAS is really at this point the common name for a list of contaminants. So within PFAS, you have PFOA. The list goes on and on. I can't even name them all at this point. And the reason why I can't name them all is because we don't have any in our system.
Oh, really?
So we do have some very, very small levels of PFAS and PFOA at our wells. However, we have treatment in place already. We're fortunate enough to have that in place already, that before it even hits the tap, it's already gone. Really, what I like to stress to our residents is I understand that what news is out there, what stories are hitting, but these are one-off situations. They really are one-off situations, especially in the United States and 100% in California. We really try to get to the solution before it actually becomes a problem. It's amazing on how much we're exposed to it, but the focus is on drinking water, where really that's where the lowest levels are in the drinking water. So
Good. So it's nice to know when I hear or see that kind of be aware of that kind of, PFAS and all that stuff. It's like we don't have to worry about our drinking water. Okay, so now that we kind of got a grasp on what kind of contaminants are and kind of how to understand them, let's actually go through our our water quality data, the numbers that are on the final page of the CCR. There's a lot of numbers. And again, with this whole CCR, it's kind of confusing. I don't know whether this number is good, this is too little, this is too much. Can you maybe go through some of the numbers and explain, what I should be concerned about?
Sure. So as far as what you should be concerned about on our CCR, once again, we meet and exceed all standards. So there's nothing that I would point out as far as a particular contaminant that should arise concern. What is on there and how it's broken up is you have our primary contaminants. So those are the contaminants that if we did have would cause the greatest health risk to the community. And so those are listed in that first section of the CCR. The secondary contaminants would have less of effect than the primary, but those are also listed in there. And then you have things like aesthetics. So smell, taste, color, things of that sort. Those are just really personal preference and more of what we're used to. You're used to seeing clear drinking water. You're used to having drinking water that doesn't taste like chlorine or anything of that matter. But depending on location and how treatment works, sometimes you do get that. So we still note it on the CCR. However, we just like to emphasize that doesn't necessarily affect the quality of your water. It's just more, again, personal preference.
So now that you explained a little bit about what the numbers are, can you maybe explain exactly what they mean?
Sure. So the first number in the column is the MCL, which is the maximum contaminant limit. A easy way of kind of explaining that is we cannot have that contaminant resulted in or have a sample result higher than what that number is listed at. So that is a state or a federal regulated number. And if you look into our results, you'll see that our averages are well below what's required. What's also in there is our range. And so, we take multiple samples, hundreds, thousands of samples a year. And so that chart is actually a compilation of all of our samples. And so what we do is we take our highest number and our lowest number and we provide that range for you. If you look at the numbers, most of them don't range very, very far off. They're really close because we do have our treatment tight knit and we do understand what's needed to get our drinking water where it needs to be. Okay,
well, again, I feel like you really did explain it really well. I feel like now, I was looking at a chart with a bunch of numbers and I had no idea what they were. Now I kind of almost feel like I could actually really understand and have some confidence in my drinking water, knowing that it is safe and, I really don't have to worry about it and just know that Valley County's taking care of everything.
Definitely. And I think the fact that our chart is so small, and it may not seem small, but it's pretty small, that if it's on one page, kind of shows how well our drinking water is, even at the raw level. Our raw drinking water only shows those contaminants at all. There's hundreds of contaminants that can be tested for, and those are the only things that actually show up in our raw water. So we have a good place to start, and we just make it even better.
Well, thanks, Dana. I really appreciate you going through that and explaining that. Another thing I kind of wanted to touch on is maybe some customer calls. You are the kind of go-to person if we ever get a water quality question or a concern with our customers. What is something that maybe our customers would call and have certain concerns about?
I would say top 2 calls, and this probably... I would say almost all of my phone calls or water quality concern calls are cloudy water, what someone likes to call cloudy water, or discolored water.
Can you maybe explain what the cloudy water is? I know I've even heard that term of milky water.
Correct.
How is water milky or cloudy? That doesn't sound safe or good to drink.
Right. And actually, I love those calls because I actually use that as a science experiment, a little mini science experiment opportunity. So to answer your question, cloudy water is actually just air bubbles in the water. It's just our bubbles are so tiny that they end up kind of becoming a milky substance. And so what I normally do is I'll take a clear container or a beaker or something of that sort. I'll have the customer put the water in, and I said, go ahead and shake it up really quick. And those water bubbles just dissipate. So it turns into clear water. So that's actually a very easy call. And I enjoy getting those calls because a lot of times, we end up having a laugh about how simple and easy that was to fix.
It's good to know that it's something that's totally harmless, and it's almost silly now when you explain it and kind of really think about it. It's just little bubbles. Can you maybe explain the other kind of call that you get a lot? You said discolored water?
Sure. So discolored water is another big amount of my volume of calls. And discolored water does occur within our system. A lot of times that's usually when there's construction going on in the area. So for example, if our distribution team is out in the field, perhaps replacing a pipe or the city is out laying asphalt, it will rattle the pipes. It'll rattle our distribution pipes that are buried underneath the ground. And so when the pipes shake and are disrupted, it releases some of that discoloration in there. I do stress to those customers our water is 100% safe, even with the discoloration. If the discoloration is lasting for longer than a few minutes, then we have opportunities to help that get clear out a little bit quicker. But most of the time there is construction going on in the area, and then they can kind of put two to two together once I explain to them, and they understand that it is just that.
Well, thanks, Dana. I really appreciate you taking your time to really explain this section of CCR. I know it was kind of a lot of information, and I do feel like we can truly understand and read the CCR now.
Yeah, like I mentioned, the most important thing to me is that our customers are confident in our water. So it is a lot of information, like you said, and I know I gave a very brief overview of it, but that's because I do want it to be relatable. I do want it to be understandable. But if there is any other questions, I welcome customers to call the district. Like I mentioned, I'll speak to them directly. If they would like to have a home visit, we can do that as well. I can explain to them where our water hits their home, and if if there is an issue, we can kind of troubleshoot to see where that begins and ends.
Well, thanks again, Dana. I really appreciate you being here with us. And again, like Dana said, if you have any questions, she's the right person to talk to about anything water quality. And again, appreciate you guys taking the time being with us and learning about the CCR and the water quality report. Thanks, and have a good one.
Thank you.
Well, that wraps up our CCR Explained. I really hope you guys enjoyed this segment. I feel like we did accomplish our goal. We talked to experts. We got to know exactly what these segments of the CCR means, and I think we truly explained it. How did you think it went, Jose?
Yeah, I think it went really well. Certainly, this is new for all of us here at the district, and certainly understanding we take the CCR very seriously here. And we want to convey this message out to our customers in any avenue that we can find to open that potential gate to communicate with our customers. And maybe this podcast is that next gate to communicate some of this information to our customers. So I certainly appreciate you bringing this idea to the district, and for the others that participated in this process to have this podcast. And certainly, this is an opportunity for our customers to kind of respond to this outlet. Was it positive? Did I learn something? And even bring questions. Maybe we receive some of the feedbacks that we can do a second one and address some of the questions that they may have.
Yeah, it's definitely a really unique and interesting perspective to really have this conversation. I feel like you get more out of it than just reading.
Exactly.
You get more explanation. You get more questions, and I feel like it's something that should be done more often. And I really hope we can do stuff like this more often. If customers have more questions, or if they have certain topics they want us to really deep dive on, this could be another outlet that we could, really deep dive into.
Absolutely. And it's that engagement, because sometimes when we're here putting together a document, it's a lot of people that understand the lingo, they understand the terminology. So sometimes you kind of get lost in it, and what makes sense to us may not make sense to our customers. So there's things that we can convey in a better method, are presented in a different alternative such as this. We're certainly going to look at that opportunity and do the best that we can to encourage our customers to ask those questions and to be engaged. And the end result really is for us to provide a better service to our customers, and that really is our end goal.
Well, again, we thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you guys give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook. We're also on Nextdoor, Twitter, all the familiar social medias. Make sure you give us a follow. We update there quite often. Lots of good information there. You can also follow us on our website at bcwd.org. We always keep all of our updated information, any upcoming events, anything like that. You'll find all the information there. With that being said, Jose, I really appreciate your time and hope to do this again real soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe.
All right. Have a good one.